What is up? It is time for Making the Grade, where we look back at the Arizona Cardinals PFF grades from the most recent game. Now, I know that the World Series game is going on right now. I was watching it myself just a minute ago. So we might have a little bit of a lighter kind of audience today, and that's okay. A lot of folks will watch this after the fact. So if you are watching this on replay, thanks for watching. If you're here hanging out, thanks for being here. We got Lord Dane. Hello. Thank you for being here. Hello. Lona, thank you for being here. I saw your Instagram picture at the game. I hope you enjoyed that game. I'm doing really well. Thank you for being here and hanging out with us. So we're going to go through the PFF grades as we always do, talk about what we're seeing. There's a couple interesting things I noticed, not only in terms of grades, but in terms of snack alignment. Alexis, hi, thanks for being here. I'm doing really well. I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. So we're going to get into it, look at the PFF grades, look at what's going on. And obviously there's been some news in terms of, the quarterback situation. I'm sure if you're following the Cardinals at this point, you've heard that Jonathan Gannon has said that they are ramping up Kyler Murray in the hopes that he can play. But if he doesn't, it's going to be Clayton Tune. So Josh Dobbs is not going to be starting, is the plan, and has led to speculation as to even whether the Cardinals might look to trade him at the deadline. Did he serve his purpose, right? Drive the bus while Kyler's recovering. Now Kyler's coming back. It'd be interesting to see what happens. I don't know if that will happen, but we'll see, right? And Jake Worley saying that Tune is probably getting paced by the Browns this week. So I will say my read on this, and this is just my speculation, is this could mean that, I wouldn't be shocked if Kyler starts. I know there have been reports that they, from some folks in the media that think he's still another week away. Obviously Gannon said they're trying to ramp him up to getting ready. So it wouldn't shock me if Kyler started this week. We'll see, but if not, get Tune out there. So that's what sounds like is going on. So a lot of interesting things. This seems like it's going to be a pivot point in the season, a point where, obviously things have been rough. They've been competitive, but not winning games. And, not saying they're going to go on a huge run and win a bunch of games, but this is where we're going to, start. Once Kyler gets in there, we're going to start to see what this offense could look like, and hopefully will look like with the new coaching staff. Anyway, let's get into it. The Cardinals played the Baltimore Ravens. They lost, by a score of 31-24, I believe it was. And it was a game that started out not so great, but the Cardinals actually put up some points in the second half, in the fourth quarter, which is something they have struggled to do. Nonetheless, it was still a rough game in a number of ways. So let's get into the grades. Let's start by looking at the offensive side. And I always like to start with the offensive line. So we'll sort this by pass block snap count to get all the offensive linemen up to the top here. Now, a couple things worth noting. In recent weeks, they had been platooning at left guard. When Wilkinson, before he got injured, Dennis Daly, Tristan Colon, and they've settled on Dennis Daly at this point. And, you see his grade isn't great. In fact, it's kind of rough, 44.4. Better pass blocking than run blocking. But as you recall, Wilkinson has been abhorrent, like grades in the 30s. So this is still an improvement, but left guard has been a problem spot all season. We see it continues to be that way. This is a little better grade than we've been getting. But what we also noticed is that they did not do the platoon thing here, right? At least not significantly. We see Tristan Colon got 2 snaps, right? And in the past, there had been a much more of a platoon sort of a snap. So that's noteworthy that they've, that Daly got vast majority of the snaps, 74 out of 76. Now, Paris Johnson Jr., his grades have kind of been like this all season. It kind of hovering around 60, high 50s. They're not amazing grades. They're not horrible. He's a rookie. I think I feel optimistic about, what we're seeing from in the future of him. He's been consistent, if nothing else, kind of in this range. So you want to see him get a little bit better, but nonetheless, there's been consistency. Will Hernandez continues to be the best offensive lineman, at least from a grade perspective. This team has consistently grades in the 60s. Here we have it again. He was a little better than run blocking than the pass blocking, but grade is 65. Froholt, his grades here, this is again what we've seen from him. His grades have not been, particularly great, but, right around 60 is kind of average-ish in terms of not doing anything amazing or horrible. So, I think we're getting Froholt has given, I think, at least some stability at center when you think about what we got with Billy Price in the past. So I think that, we'd like to see an upgrade at some point, but if nothing else, he's giving some stability there. And again, he knows the system. DJ Humphries, had a decent game, pass blocking, run blocking is rough. He continues though to have a down year overall. When you look at his grades here, this is a guy, look throughout his career, this is his worst season grade wise. I mean, 54.9. Someone who is consistently graded at least in the 60s had, in 2020, he was the fourth highest graded offensive tackle in the NFL at 88.3. So I don't know if it's a system thing. I don't know if it's just an age thing or just having an off year or injured, but he's not playing great. Not as bad as some other position players, but not great. Chris Young, thanks for being here. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Appreciate you. So the offensive line was okay. Classy Nasty, what's up, Professor? Appreciate you hanging out, my friend. Thanks for being here. So the offensive line was very average-ish. Wasn't horrible, wasn't great. You'll take that, okay? So I would say this game, in my view, was not on the offensive line in terms of losing the game. It was much more, and we'll talk about this on the quarterback, I think. Excuse me. So now let's look at some of the other positions. Now, obviously, this is the what one of the players everyone's looking at. Trey McBride with Zach Ertz on IR. It was time for McBride to shine, and shine he did. 10 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. The grades reflected that he had a good game. 75, that is a nice, solid grade. 78.1 in the passing game. So we like what we're seeing. That he 62 snaps. He dominated the tight end snaps. This is what we were all hoping to see from the former second-round pick, Trey McBride. He's been good all year. He's just been playing second fiddle a lot to Zach Ertz. But his grades have been solid overall this year. He's graded at 70 overall. And you see, the week in, week out, he's had a few down weeks. But overall, he's had a lot of good weeks, right? A lot of grades in the 70s. So like what we're seeing from McBride, like that he got those snaps and he was up to the task, right? Higgins, they got him in there some. Swain continues to be a solid pickup. His grades weren't amazing, but he's been reasonably solid for them as a number 2 or 3 tight end. Now looking at the receivers, Rondale Moore run grade was good, 74.5. His receiving grade, his passing grade, his grades in the passing game have not been great. I think some of that's utilization in terms of how they're using him. You see them using him mostly as in gadget plays, not a lot of targets kind of down the field, which is disappointing because he can do some nice things down the field, but they're using him the way they're using him, but he has been effective in the run game. Michael Wilson, solid grade, 71.8, and he looked good to the eye test. They're not targeting him enough. We all, I think, agree with that, but he looked good on those targets. And his run blocking grade was really good on 28 snaps. So solid run blocking game out of him. Pascal, had 11 snaps, nothing to write home about there. Hollywood Brown graded 64.8. That was decent. He had some nice receptions. That touchdown, was a really nice route, a nice play, and a really, nice throw by Dobbs. He had a bad day, but that was a really nice throw on that touchdown to Hollywood Brown. Really nice play there. Got that ball just in the right spot. But Shelley, it's just a couple snaps, nothing really worth mentioning there. So the receivers, this is what we've seen most of the year. Michael Wilson grades well, gets limited targets, but makes the most of them. Hollywood Brown has been solid. And Pascal gets a few snaps, doesn't do much typically. Rondale Moore, more gadget, has some nice plays, mostly in the running game, right? That's what we're seeing with receivers. Now, the running game. Keontae Ingram, let me start there, because we'll get to Amari DeMarcado in a moment. Keontae Ingram is a player I've been kind of disappointed that we just haven't seen more from him. He had one really nice run. I think a lot of people, myself included, thought we would see more from him, especially with James Conner injured. He seemed like a good fit for this offense. And the undrafted rookie free agent, Amari DeMarcado, has outsnapped him, carried him, and outperformed him. So something, as much as I like Ingram as a player, there was a really big opportunity for him, and he just hasn't seized it. Now, he did get some snaps, so he's the number 2 running back. They brought in Williams for a few snaps, right? But DeMarcado, as the undrafted free agent out of TCU, is oh real quick, Grandad said, chose that constant clearing the throat, or is there someone else that tried to start roasting? Sorry, that's my throat. Been dealing with some allergy nonsense. Apologize for that. But DeMarcado looked really good. Like his grade is is the highest graded player offensively. And to the eye test, he was patient. He did a good job avoiding, the tacklers and a lot of runs. Just some really nice jobs running the ball by DeMarcado, following the blocks, being patient, letting them develop. There were a few plays where he got stuff, but that's what it is. That's going to happen sometimes. But overall, I just really liked what I saw out of DeMarcado. He looked really good this game. Chris Young saying, with the chatter about the Cardinals wanting to keep Hollywood on the team, what level of new contract would you be comfortable with? How much is too much to pay him? That's a great question. I know I saw some of the estimates around 18 to 20 million a year. With wide receivers, this is kind of what you're looking at. I would be comfortable with going in that direction, like going, 18 to 20 million a year. Some might think that's high, but what you have to remember is they have, the rest of the receiving core is probably going to be on rookie deals for the next 2 to 3 years, right? You've got, Michael Wilson, who is on a rookie deal. So we'll have 3 more years after this year of cost control with him, right? And then you're going to, if we draft someone, right? Or I know everyone's talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., but if we draft someone, then you got 4 years of rookie deal for that receiver. And then you've got Hollywood Brown on a deal for 3, 4, maybe 5 years, probably more 3 to 4 years at 20 something million. Like the way with things go in terms of contracts, by the time the Cardinals are going to have to look to pay Michael Wilson or someone they draft this year, Hollywood Brown's deal is going to be almost over. It's going to be a better deal, because the price for, all those contracts are going to go up, and they're going to have cap space. So for me, I'm fine with pay him 18, 20 million. Even if it's if it's up to 22 million, I'm not going to quibble about that, because you're going to get him that 3 to 4 year deal. And then, you've got cap space during that, because you're rebuilding through the draft. It's not going to be a problem. And then when it's time to decide if you want to extend Hollywood Brown again after that, then you can kind of make your decision there for that next contract. At the same time, you're making decisions about Michael Wilson, whoever else. So I think you have to look at it sometimes in terms of the entire room, right? And where things are and how those rookie deals versus, second and third contracts overlay. And Hollywood Brown, go ahead, pay him now, get that contract, and then you're going to have those 2 or 3 other rookie deal guys with him, and have a receiver room that could be really good and actually not all that terribly expensive when you take all of them into account. So that's my take for what it's worth. Yeah. So in terms of the running back, so DeMarcado has performed really well. And this, if you, this is the thing with running backs. You can find guys like that can get the job done, right? This is why you don't pay lots of money for running backs. Typically, they're paying a little bit for James Conner. He's injured, so unfortunately they're missing him. Conner's been really good. They're not paying him a huge amount, so I don't mind that contract. But this is why you don't pay a ton, because if he does go down, you can find someone like DeMarcado who will be decent, right? But he's been a nice find for them. A guy that hopefully will stick around, and if nothing else, be depth. As they build this roster out. So really liked what we saw from him. Nice game from him. Now I want to talk though about Joshua Dobbs. Like we mentioned, he's benched, and he continues to run the ball well, right? 76.4 grade on the running the ball. He's really good in that capacity. But you can't build an offense completely around that if you don't have at least a little bit of passing, stability. And this is why Dobbs, is a backup. He struggled in that first half. It was really, really an ugly first half. It got better in the second half. but overall, it still wasn't good. Those interceptions were rough, and there were a couple other throws. Dobbs is a backup, and he's been playing more games. Teams are getting more film on him. They know what to expect more, and he just doesn't have what it takes to elevate. He is what he is, and it's time to get Kyler in there. Keith, thanks for being here. I appreciate you, Keith. Sorry I'm late to my favorite analysis show. Thank you so much. Always very kind with your comments, and appreciate you being a channel member and following on Twitter. Thank you so much. So yeah, Joshua Dobbs, it looks like he's run his course. I ain't mad at him. He came in, drove the bus, had some decent games, had a lot of bad games as well. This is what you're going to get though, right? With the situation they were in. So I don't think Clayton Tune would have played better over that stretch. Now I am intrigued to see if Clayton Tune does play this next game. It'll be nice to see what he can do in that situation. I am still though hoping that we're going to see Kyler this upcoming game, though we'll see, right? Either way, Dobbs is slated to not be the starter. And if the report is if Kyler Murray does start, then Tune will be the backup. So, Dobbs is the third string at that point if he's still on the roster. So we'll see. So overall, in terms of the grades, it wasn't as bad as some weeks overall, but the problem is obviously when your quarterback is one of your lower graded players, that's a problem. Right. But better quarterback play, Kyler Murray probably wins this game, if he's, if he's like, full health. Right. The offensive line was good enough. They got something nice out of the running game. Trey McBride makes some nice plays. And let me tell you, everyone's has looked at the replay of the touchdown, which was awesome. Right. With the kind of, really got the ball and wouldn't go down. And then the rest of the team came and pushed him in. But I want to also mention there was a catch later in the game. I don't know if you caught it, but it was kind of a high throw, and he went up for it and got it in the seam. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. He was going down a seam route, and he went up for a ball. And that was the kind of ball that Zach Ertz has been getting off of his fingertips all year, right? This catch that Trey McBride got late in the game, just, the game was kind of out of hand. They were trying to come back, and it wasn't as big of a highlight as the touchdown, but it was just this really nice grab for him, jumping up and grabbing it while running and pulling it down in, in the whole kind of just in that spot in the zone there. And all year, Zach Ertz has been missing those kinds of catches, right? So it was really a nice play by McBride. So there were some nice things in this game. It just, the quarterback play wasn't enough. Christian asking, do you think there's any chance Dobbs gets traded? I do think there's a chance. Absolutely. I think there's a chance. You've got some teams like the Jets and like Minnesota with Kirk Cousins being injured that the Jets have been rolling with Zach Wilson, but I think you've got teams like that are going to at least consider all the options. Is Dobbs, that great of a player, going to make a huge difference? Probably not, but I don't know. He might be better than what they're looking at. So I could see it happening. I know it's been speculated about. I don't know if it will. I wouldn't mind seeing that. If you got Kyler and Tune here, yeah, Vikings. That's one of the teams that people have speculated. I don't hate that at all, right? Falcons or Patriots. I don't think you're going to see. Watch them prove me wrong. I don't think you're going to see either of those. With the Falcons, I think Heineke's a better quarterback than Dobbs. He's closer to being a starter, in my opinion. Obviously, the Ritter's the guy they've been rolling with, and then Heineke, I believe they put him in. I think that Falcons team is going to go with what they got in house, and they're going to go behind the running game. So I think I don't think the Falcons are likely. The Patriots, they're kind of weird, maybe, but Belichick just likes to go with the guys he's drafted, and like sometimes he'll pick up guys off the practice squad, and they're usually players that he's had before on the team. I'd be really surprised if either of them went after him. I don't think he's saving either of their seasons. I think they both have better situations in house. But yeah, that's my thoughts though. Dobbs is living the dream. He plays all heart. So fun to watch. It is fun to watch, especially when he's running the ball. It's just those throws sometimes, right? So yeah. So offensive side of the ball, the story is they played well enough to win if they got better quarterback play. Really, right? So yeah. Any thoughts on May who may be traded before the deadline? I think I don't Hollywood Brown. It sounds like they're sticking with him. There've been reports that they're not planning to trade him, so I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think there's a lot of players on this roster that they would look to trade. I could see again Dobbs we talked about maybe if that could happen, so I could see that. I could maybe see DJ Humphries. So maybe, but I think I'm not, if they want to move, Paris Johnson Jr. over the left side, or if they just decide they're going to start Kelvin Beachum, which he isn't great, but they're not getting great play out of, DJ Humphries either. But if I were a betting person, I would bet it's more likely they don't trade anyone than they do. But if they do, because they don't have a ton of players in this roster that teams are going to be going after, but Dobbs maybe, right? So that offense is a quarterback away, in my opinion. This offense right here is for sure, right? Grandizer saying Dobbs is a player, one that fans like to root for, like Minshew celebrity says. Listen, he is a very likable person. He's smart, right? He's on social media. He's funny. Good personality. You want to root for him as a person, and he plays an exciting brand of football, especially with the running. So he's the kind of player who gets you, a little bit excited in some of those games, and then he throws the interceptions or turns over the ball, right? So I still think as backups go, he's a good backup in my opinion. It's just if a backup has to play 8 games, they get exposed like that, right? Real quick update on the game. It's 3-0 still. All right. Checking in on the Texans Diamondbacks. All right. Let's look at the defense. Now, there's a couple things I want to look at here, not just the grades, but we'll quickly look at it. You see Starling Thomas had a great grade, really good grade in 17 snaps, the undrafted free agent. Josh Woods up there. You have then some grades. Lecky Fotu had a really bad game. Overall, it looks though a little bit like the offensive grades, decent grades, right? But they gave up some touchdowns and some points down the road, right? But I want to look at a couple of things. Excuse me. Let's look at the positions. I want to start by talking about what's going on at safety. Let's see. Real quick. Oh, Granites are asking, Joseph, will you have time to do your top 10 players the Cardinals should trade for? Ooh, I just don't think they should be trading for players. That's the thing. I think they should just kind of, excuse me, got a cough. Sorry. I think they should stick with what they've got and let the young players play, So, in the off season, I might do some 10 players they should sign, but I don't think they should be trading for anyone right now. Really, they're building, they're getting experience for their young players. Is I kind of think what they're doing. So yeah. All right. So I want to though talk about what's going on with safety because they released Kayvon Wallace, right? Which was kind of maybe a little bit of a surprise. Not that he was playing amazingly, but he was playing a decent amount of snaps, a guy they had picked up off waivers. And, the question is, well, okay, what are they going to do at safety? Budda Baker's back. So clearly that was part of that. But Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson had been playing a lot at slot cornerback. So then you have Andre Shashera, who's been playing some at safety. And then you have Joey Blount, who you see here got like one snap. He made some big plays in special teams and such. But, the question is, okay, what are they doing at safety? And what I want to look at before we get into the grades is looking at snap alignments. So want to look like if you look at a player's, advanced grades, there's a place here with snap count alignment or alignment snap counts. And this over here, the C, that's corner, that's outside corner. This is slot corner, free safety, and box is either strong safety or inside linebacker. So if they're lined up in the middle within a certain depth, they're either strong safety or middle linebacker. And then defensive line, that's usually for a defensive back. When you see defensive line, it usually means they ended up lining up kind of on the edge. And, defenses will move players around. So it's not uncommon to see like Budda Baker, who's more of a safety, have a handful of snaps at slot or at slot corner, when he's covering a tight end or something, and then even up off the edge if they're blitzing him. So you see that kind of thing. So, what we're really looking for in terms of who's playing safety is who's getting a lot of snaps at the free safety or the box, which is typically they're lined up as a strong safety, sometimes going in at linebacker, but mostly strong safety, right? So Budda Baker, not surprisingly, most of his snaps were at free safety or in the box as a strong safety, occasionally getting some slot, right? Well, here's where the real pivot is. Jalen Thompson, first game was 55 snaps at slot, right? You see, and then 49, 47. He was playing a lot in the slot earlier, and then they started shifting him a little bit more towards safety. But if you look at this game, he still did a fair bit of slot, but they've got him in the 21 snaps in the box and 16 at free safety. This Jalen Thompson played more snaps at free safety this game than he has at any other game this season, and a fair number at the box, second most. So combined, when you get the 37 snaps, 37 snaps in the box or at free safety, that's more safety snaps than he's played. So what I'm trying to say here's a short version is Jalen Thompson, who had been playing a lot of slot cornerback, has been moved back, has returned to being a safety. And I think a lot of that has to do with Garrett Williams emerging and being, healthy and playing. And also them playing Starling Thompson, Antonio Hamilton a bit more as well. But I think this, if you look at Garrett Williams, he played 36 snaps. 3 were in box. 1 was a free safety, 32 at slot. And last week he played 22 at slot. So they are playing him, Garrett Williams, the rookie, at slot cornerback a lot. So, and he's not the only one who's playing slot, but he's playing a lot of that. So I think that is allowing them they're moving Jalen Thompson back to safety more along with Budda Baker. And that's the safety tandem we're used to seeing. Garrett Williams is playing a good bit of slot. Marco Wilson is playing primarily outside, like overwhelmingly, a few snaps in the box, right? But overwhelmingly, he is playing outside corner, not well, as we'll talk about. But Antonio Hamilton has done both, you see, throughout the season. He's kind of gone back and forth, but this week he was primarily outside. Starling Thomas has played primarily with, he did get some snaps in the box last week, but primarily outside this week. So we're seeing some shifts in what they're doing with the defensive backs, right? In terms of the safety cornerbacks. I think, again, Budda being healthy and Garrett Williams being healthy are a big part of what's going on there, right? Guys are saying, yes, if Kyler Murray were not injured, I'd like to see what the Cards could get for him, just see what the return would be. For who? For Josh Dobbs, or because I know some people speculate about trading Kyler Murray, but I definitely would not. I want to keep Kyler Murray, that's for sure. But Granders is saying when they show the stats from Ravens Cards game, the run pass, first down, time of possession, we were nearly identical. Is it really that close of a game till the fourth? It wasn't that close of a. It wasn't close until the fourth. I mean, it was 7-7 for a while, then 14-7. So I guess you could say in the first half it was close, but in the third quarter, the Ravens pulled ahead, and then the Cardinals tried coming back. So I guess it was in terms of the time of possession, things like that, it was close. You have to take into account the Cardinals had 2 interceptions, some turnovers. So I guess, if it weren't for those turnovers, it might have been, Cardinals might have had a chance to win. So I guess it was kind of close to those metrics. The turn for Kyler Murray. Oh man. Yeah. I don't, probably at least a first rounder and more, but I'm all in for building around Kyler. So I don't want to see that. That's me. But, Alexa's saying for me, for how all these young players have playing, I feel confident in the future. Me too. We're seeing some nice play out of Dante Stills and Garrett Williams. So I'm with you there. Chris Young saying the only position I would be okay trading for is maybe defensive line. They could certainly use some help there. No doubt. Okay. So I wanted to kind of talk about what was going on with the defensive backs, particularly Jalen Thompson being moved back to more safety, Garrett Williams being more the slot corner. And that's kind of what we're seeing there, right? Now, looking at the grades here. So safety, Budda Baker played really well, grade of 70.1, 72.2 in coverage. His grade's a little low on his 2 pass rushing snaps, but solid game from Budda Baker. It's good to see him back. Garrett Williams had a really nice game, 71.2 in his second game, since coming back healthy. So second game in the NFL. Really like his future. He was a guy who we got in the 3rd round, and he went that late really because of the injury. So really excited about his potential. It's nice to see him on the field and nice to see him having a good game. Jalen Thompson had a good game. So, it was nice. That's a nice core for the future. They need a number one cornerback to emerge, whether that's Garrett Williams develops into that or they draft that guy. But Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Garrett Williams as 3 of the 5, you got kind of typically with slot corner, you got 5 guys back there. That's a nice core. We'll see who the other 2 end up being. Hamilton had a really rough game, played a lot of snaps, really rough for him. Marco Wilson didn't grade as poorly as he has some other games, 56.5, coverage of 54.1, but it wasn't good. It hasn't been good for him most of this year. He's had 2 good games, Washington and Dallas. The rest have been mediocre to really bad. His grade of 43.4 is the worst of his career, worse than his rookie year. Worried about Marco Wilson. He's been their number 1 cornerback, and he shouldn't have to be. I don't think he should be your number 1 cornerback. I think you want him as number 2 or 3. I know a lot of people just don't want to see him on the field at all. I think if he wasn't having to be the number 1, he might be okay. If he wasn't drawing the toughest matchup on the field at corner. So I'm not going to throw in the towel on him yet, but I would like to see him not have to be the number 1 cornerback for sure. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the cornerbacks and the defensive back safeties. Let's look at the edge rushers. Cameron Thomas had a rough game, 55.2. He's graded better than that through most of the year. It was really in the run defense. If you look at it, because his pass rush wasn't horrible. It was okay, but the run defense hurt him a little bit. He's been grading in the 60s most weeks, right? He had a really bad game in San Francisco. So this was a lower graded game for him. He's still grading 64.4. He's graded well, hasn't got the sacks, but he's, has overall decent grades. Then we've got Zaven Collins, Austin Hoyt. Thanks for being here. Mentioning about Zaven. What's interesting about Zaven is the fact that he isn't primarily being used as an edge. They seem to be using him in the Micah Parsons role as an edge off-ball hybrid player. Yeah. And when they talked about moving him to the edge, I kind of didn't think was going to be a true pure, Nick Bosa pass rusher. I thought it would be more of a little bit of a hybrid, and that does seem to be what they're doing. And, he's great. He had a nice game, great, reasonably well, 62.3 in particular. His coverage is really good. His tackling grade, the run defense was okay, but the pass rush grade was low. And listen, I talk about this every week. He's had 1 good pass rush grade this year, right? Last week against Seattle had an 84, right? On 15 snaps, but every other week it's been at best mediocre. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. He hasn't been an edge rusher throughout his career or college consistently. He doesn't have those pass rush moves like a guy who has been an edge rusher's entire career. So he is not going to typically grade well in terms of the pass rush grades. And with the exception of 1 week, that's kind of been what it's been. But if you look at it, his coverage grades, they've been up and down. He's had some nice weeks, some not so great. His tackling grades, with the exception of 1 week, have been good. Run defense have been solid for the most part, and you look at his season long grades, he is having his best graded season of his career in year 3. His coverage grade 66.2 is okay. Tackling grade 64. These grades are fine. The pass rush, though, as an edge rusher, is what he's designated here. That's bringing it down. So I think he's playing better than the grades indicate, because I think his role isn't the pure pass rusher, as Austin's kind of talking about there. But it is certainly something interesting to look at. Then we get to the other. BJ Ojulari had his first NFL sack, right? And he had another play where he ran down, Lamar Jackson kind of on the sideline, chased him down a little bit. So it was nice to see him. He's graded reasonably well throughout the season, even though he got his first sack on a week when his pass rush grade wasn't amazing, 61.4. But he had a nice grade, 67.2, and he got his first NFL sack. So that's nice to see. Want to see a lot more of those from him. But again, his grades, he's had a few down weeks, but overall for a rookie, he's grading in the 60s. You'll take that, right? And then, Jesse Luketa, again, he's been more of a run, playing more against the run. His grades weren't particularly good. Gardick had a down game. His pass rush grade was pretty bad, 49.8. Gardick has been good overall this year. Again, just, those players will have a down game, and he had one. Demikaji had I think he had a half a sack, I believe he was got credited for, but he got in on the sack action here, graded well, 69.4. He has been a nice player for them, and it's, he's grading at 75.1. I think he's going to be a nice part of that pass rush rotation moving forward. In terms now looking at the defensive line, Ledbetter has had a rough year. He's never really been a starting caliber player, so maybe that's to be expected. His grade wasn't particularly good. If you look at him throughout the year, he's had one good game and a lot of ant games, right? So he's not a guy you look at who should be starting long term. Not a great game for him. Roy Lopez has played solid for them quietly, I think. This, 65.1 as a nose tackle. He's had, one bad game there, a couple mediocres, but some good games on limited snaps. He is 6'2", 318. He's not as big as Leki Fotu, but he's played better than him. He's graded better than him. So, we're seeing he got 21 snaps, and then compared to Leki Fotu's 31. So he's still got more snaps than Leki Fotu overall, but he's played better. So I wonder if we're going to start seeing more of him. I think I would like to, right? What is up, Saltiest Gamer? Thanks for being here, hanging out with us. Make sure you check out his gaming content. And he's also got some sports content. Appreciate you hanging out with us, dude. So Lopez has been solid, right? Fotu, not so much. This was, he's been very mad this year. This was, you look at it, very mad. And this was his second worst game of the year. Sadly, this is still his best graded season of his career, but it has not been good for Leki Fotu. Looking at the other defensive line, Dante Stills. This is a player that I am just really excited by what we're seeing from him. Again, a 6th round pick who started out slow first couple games, but in the last 6 or so games has come on strong. Grade is 71.7. He got 1.5 sacks. And you look at it his first couple games were rough. He was a rookie. You expect that. He had a rough game against Seattle. Okay, you're going to have that. But look at 66.3, 63.6, 71.4, 71.7 here. Overall grading 57.1. He's, making up for the deficit from these bad games. But that's nice progress, right? That's some nice consistency, what you're seeing there. Out of a 6th round pick, right? So again, another player we talk about that we like what we're seeing in terms of from this draft class. Excuse me. So I think he's a nice part of the future there, at least as a rotational piece. Ben Still, a guy that they signed as a free agent, had not a great game, So, then I think we mentioned just real quick, I think I mentioned earlier, Starling Thomas, when we're looking at the cornerbacks, played really well on 17 snaps. He's been a little up and down as a rookie, right? That's what you'd expect. But he's gotten better over the 3 weeks, although he played fewer snaps, so that, so less of a targeted role. But then we look at the middle linebackers, Josh Wood and Kaiser White. White had a rough game. To the eye test, to me, it looked a little rough too. He just looked like he was kind of getting, it wasn't huge plays, but he just seemed a little bit behind, a step behind and getting some tackles. So, it wasn't great. The tackling grade was okay, but the run defense, not so much, and everything else, right? Josh Woods, the tackling grade was low, but he was really good in coverage on limited snaps there. But, nice game there. Overall, graded out reasonably well. So that's what we got out of the middle linebackers play there. So overall, again, the defense, there were some nice grades. There were some rough grades. They let Baltimore put up 31 points. Of course, when you get some turnovers, that hurts that, right? So, yeah. Salty is glad the Josh Dobbs experiment is over. Yep. Again, he did about what you would expect for a backup. We're ready to see Kyler back soon. We'll see if Tune is who people think. I do need a Ricola. Thank you, Keith. I wish I had one. Sorry. Yep. Sorry for all the coughing stuff. Hopefully that allergy stuff will get away. But the Josh Dobbs experiment over. Sounds like people think we're going to see Clayton Tune. But Kyler's coming back soon. Calvin, thanks for being here, buddy. Hey, Joe, late to the party again. Let's see what Tune can do. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm intrigued to see a game from him. If Kyler doesn't start as people are speculating, let's give him a game. And maybe, that might be part of the thought process too. Like that. I know like Dobbs hasn't been great. I don't know that Tune's going to be better, but maybe what they really wanted was, okay, this is the last week before Kyler plays. Maybe they just want to get Tune out there for 1 week to see something from him. Who knows, right? Chris saying, channeling my inner grandizer. We had 22 in the chat, only 12 likes in the video. Go smash that button. Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. Yes. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the grades. It was a competitive game. Again, if there was better quarterback play, they would have, I think, without those 2 interceptions, I think Cardinals probably win this game. Right. But that's what you get with the backup. Real quick, let's look at the Baltimore grades on offense. Tyler Linderbaum, I know that's always going to be a sore spot because we could have had him, but if we didn't trade away, for Hollywood Brown. So I know people have certain feelings about that. He graded well. They had some decent grades up here. Zeitler, especially on the offensive line. Tight end Mark Andrews had a nice game. Some nice grades, but then they had some really rough grades, right? Some down game from Zay Flowers, a really nice rookie that they've got at receiver. It wasn't Lamar Jackson didn't have a great game. So the Cardinals had a chance to win. They didn't have their best game, but of course they didn't win. Michael Pierce on defense had a heck of a game, and he was really, he had that one play, where I think the sack where he beat Froholt there, and the fumble that Froholt had to jump on. Another they had a nice play of Stevens who had an interception. They had some nice grades and then some rough grades on defense. So, aside from Pierce, they didn't grade particularly well. It was just they graded okay, but they didn't have an amazing game either. But again, they certainly had enough to beat us. Let's see. Chris saying a little mean of them to make Tune's first game against the nasty Browns defense, right? Judy, thanks for being here. So much info, good analysis. Thanks, Joe. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. The kind words, and appreciate you being here and watching. So, yeah, overall, there's still some nice things we're seeing from the Cardinals, though, especially with some of the rookies. Garrett Williams, love what we're seeing from him. Starling Thomas has been a nice, pleasant surprise as an undrafted free agent. Love what we're seeing out of, Dante Stills, right? And then on the offensive side, Michael Wilson, love what we're seeing out of DeMarcado. And then Trey McBride. That's really kind of the big story here. The Trey McBride, kind of coming out party, right? That was a huge game. Thunder, thanks for being here. Kyler wins the Ravens game, in my humble opinion. Defense played well enough to win. I agree. I think so as well. So let's real quick. We'll look at the Cardinals. I like to look at kind of just the lineup with how the grades are looking here, or at least what PFF has, whoever they have starting here. We see that they've got the safeties back as Thompson and Baker, and so the grades look better there. Middle linebacker grades okay-ish. Wilson and Hamilton, they've got them as the outside cornerbacks. Collins and Gardick on the edge, grade reasonably well. Defensive interior line, not so great. We talked about Sills, though he's getting better. Let's switch to the nickel, and then that brings in some other players. Garrett Williams at slot corner, right? Thomas gets moved in there with Stills, right? So I'd say the defensive starters look better than they did earlier in the season in terms of grades. But offense, they have Cologne there as the left guard, but based on that, he has the best grade there. But based on snaps, it's not actually him. It is Dennis Daly, right? So that's a little misleading. But Hernandez has been solid. Grades could be worse. Outside receivers are grading nicely. McBride, right? Dobbs, that's ugly, right? That grade there. DeMarcado, though, and Moore, Moore's grade's not so great, but so this is kind of what it looks like there. We'll switch it over now real quick to the 2 tight end. And here it's Swaim, right? Brings him in. So that's what it's looking like, kind of mediocre in the grades, but again, we're this year is all about the rookies, right, and the young players and the development of them. That's and getting Kyler back. So within that perspective, I'm fine with what I'm seeing. Daniel, thanks for being here. If we get a top 3 pick, we need to take Harrison Jr., a franchise receiver, and go with our franchise quarterback. I would be really happy with that. We're going to have likely we're going to have a top 3 pick and then a top 10-ish pick with the Texans pick, depending on where they land. So, it's going to be, interesting to see what happens with that, but I would love to see Marvin Harrison Jr. I think they need to look at, though, the defense as well. And Danny, I know in the past you've talked a lot about edge rushers, and I wouldn't mind getting another edge rusher in there as well. But interior defensive line is probably the biggest need, but I'd be happy with getting a receiver like that as well. Chris Young, really interested to see what Williams Stilling ends up being between him and Michael Wilson. The Cards absolutely nailed the 3rd round in the last draft. I agree. Just love both of those picks. What PFF subscription do you have? I have the PFF Plus, I believe is what I got. My subscription to, I believe it's a legacy annual plan. So the annual plan on the PFF Plus. That's what I got. Was this PJJ Paris Johnson Jr.'s worst game? I don't think it was, but I'll bring that back up and we'll look at that. So here's Paris Johnson Jr.'s weekly grades. Dallas, surprisingly, the game we won was his worst grade. He's had 1, 2, 3 games worse than this. This is kind of middle of the pack game for him in terms of grade. So, or 4 games worse. So anyway, it's kind of middle of the pack for him though. So not the worst for him. I think the Cardinals will finish with 3 wins. I could see that. I could see them getting closer with Kyler going on a little bit of a run, winning a few more than that, but 3 wins seems like, and it's sad because I really thought they'd do more than that. I thought Kyler would come back sooner, and I thought they would gut out a few more wins. And I mean, they were close on a couple, so it's tough, right? What would you give the Cards draft grade so far? For me, I'd give it at least a solid B+. Certainly Tune, some people, even though we're excited to see him play this week, some people would question whether they should have taken a quarterback there or not. I'm okay with it. I think, you could question why they didn't take a true center. I think, the offensive lineman they drafted in the 4th round, they wanted him to be a center, but he got injured, right? So, maybe we'll see how that works out. But loving what we're seeing from some of these players so far. So yeah, overall I'd say a solid B plus. I think Ertz is on the IR now, so at this point they can't really do either of those things right now. And so he's not going to be back in time for the trade deadline. So if you have to release him with like an injury, there's some sort of injury designation. I don't know. I don't think they can even do that right now. So unfortunately, he's going to be sitting there on IR. So I do think, after the season, probably, I think there's a good chance, right? So yeah. Grandmaster, thanks for putting this up here. What's on tap for Arizona Cardinals? Games coming up at Browns, Falcons, Texans, Rams, Steelers, by 49ers, Bears, Eagles, Seahawks. So listen, depending on what happens, the Browns could be a winnable game. The Falcons is a winnable game, especially if Kyler's back. The Texans is a winnable game. Rams, it's always tricky with division. Steelers, if Kyler's back and playing well, they have a winning record, but their quarterback situation's suspect. Love their coach, though. Love what Tomlin does. I mean, never had a losing season, and he's got them winning this year. 49ers, that would be an upset if we won. Bears is a winnable game. Eagles wouldn't expect to win there. Seahawks, again, division rivals, you never know. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe, Salty, when you say 3 wins, I could see that the Texans and the Bears seem like good chances, but maybe they win 1 or 2 more, right? McBride season, listen, I'm excited to see more from him this year. For the 49ers, the sky is well, yeah. Their quarterback situation, he hasn't played well for them lately. So yeah. Again, we're with the Cardinals, it's all looking at the future. But I'm still excited about the future. There's some nice things with the rookies. And I'm excited to see Kyler back. So that is the real thing I can't wait to see. I want to see what he looks like in this offense. So it might be this week or next week. Going back to the Diamondbacks, they're down 0-3 still. So here's hoping they can pull out something there. All right. Well, I think that's what we got for this week. Making the grade. Cardinals had, unfortunately another loss, but there were some nice things with McBride and some other players. So, still excited for the future. So we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. I don't feel bad. It's just the throat's kind of, gnarly, but I appreciate that. So thank you all. I'm going to put up the shout outs for our channel members. Thank you to everyone who supports the channel as a channel member. And then we'll get the theme song going and we can get out of here. See y'all later. Peace.